Well, welcome, folks, to this edition of the 700 Club. Well, the word was to Kirstjen Nielsen, if you don't stop that bunch of immigrants coming in, you're out. And that's exactly what happened. She's gone, and somebody else is going to be taking her place. But how can any woman or man or anybody stop this flood of thousands of people? 100,000 detentions in March alone. Well, as Washington correspondent Amber Strong reports, the change has been a long time coming.
In a move that's been expected for months, DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, who's struggled to control the flow of illegal immigration across the border, is stepping down. The president announcing her departure Sunday via tweet. On a recent visit to the U.S.-Mexico border with Nielsen by his side, he voiced his frustration.
The system is full, and when it's full, there's nothing you can do. You have to say, I'm sorry, we can't take you.
Her replacement for now, U.S. Customs and Border Protection head Kevin McAleenan. McAleenan's background is a sign the president sees immigration as the key component for the $40 billion Homeland Security Department. In her resignation letter, Nielsen writes, I hope that the next secretary will have the support of Congress and the courts. Democrats on the Hill seem happy she's gone, but expressing concern about harsher immigration policies to come. Congressman Elijah Cummings tweeting, Secretary Nielsen oversaw a department that separated families at the border. I'm concerned by reports that she's resigning because she was not extreme enough. This as a record-setting number of migrants are coming over the southern border, redlining the Border Patrol's capability to handle them all. House Democrat Ben Ray Lujan says the increase is from people legally seeking asylum.
When the Department of Homeland Security is reporting these numbers, I don't believe that they are accurately describing the numbers with the number of people that are turning themselves in versus those that are being apprehended.
But Republicans say the policy allowing asylum seekers to stay in the country while their cases are heard is part of the problem.
We're seeing unaccompanied young people as well as families with lots of kids pouring into the border, and they say the magic word, I'm seeking asylum. We don't begin to have enough space in our facilities to maintain the kind of care that these people deserve. It's going to take some legislation to get it fixed.
Now, McAleenan joins a growing list of acting department heads, including ICE, the Pentagon, and of course the White House Chief of Staff. President Trump has said in the past that he likes the flexibility. Amber Strong, CBN News in Washington.
Well, the dirty little secret, ladies and gentlemen, is the Democrats want a massive group of uneducated people who will vote Democratic. And they want to flood the country with such people and swell the voter rolls. And these people will be dependent on the government, and therefore they will be voting for those who they think will be giving them handouts. And the Democrats say, well, we are going to give you a free everything. That's what's the game. And what's happening is our system can't stand it. We cannot stand it. But as the law stands now, as it is now, somebody just gets their foot on American soil and says, I'm an asylum seeker. I want asylum. And that is the magic phrase that they've been taught to say. And when they say that, then from then on, we've got to process them and go through these courts and so forth. We don't have the manpower. We don't have the court system. We don't have the necessary infrastructure to handle this flood of people. And the thing must be fixed. Those immigrants are not stupid. They know what the game is. They know what the law is. And they've been taught by people who are radical, who are in their midst, to say, here are the magic words. Say these words. Get across this border, especially with little children, and you are home free. And we can't afford that. We can't accommodate it. And it's time that some people begin to speak up. But there's no possibility that the head of Homeland Security or any other federal agency by themselves can stop this. It's got to be Congress, and they've got to work for this country, Democrat and Republican, but they don't seem to want to do it. Well, in the other news, the Democrats are on another fishing trip. This time for the president's taxes. John Jessup has more on that.
Thanks, Pat. President Trump's chief of staff says Congress will never see the president's tax returns. This after the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee requested for the IRS to turn over the president's personal and business returns for the past 6 years. Democratic Congressman Richard Neal cited a provision in the tax code that allows the committee to request information on any tax filer, The president's supporters say Democrats are using the tax code illegally to attack the president.
If they don't get what they want on the Mueller report, they're going to ask for the taxes. If they don't get what they want on the taxes, they'll ask for something else.
This idea that you can use the IRS as a political weapon, which is what's happening here, is incorrect both as a matter of statutory law and constitutionally. We should not be in a situation where individual private tax returns are used for political purposes.
Now, breaking with tradition, the president never publicly released his tax returns, saying that's because he's being audited. Mr. Trump is expected to fight the chairman's request, though, Pat, in court.
Well, you remember the scandal of Nixon and all the things that he did. And the big problem was he was using the IRS for political purposes. The IRS has incredible power to get the most intimate details of the finances of every single taxpayer. And one of the things that is there to protect the taxpayers is that these returns are sacrosanct. They're supposed to be kept strictly confidential. And as Jay Sekulow said, they certainly should never be used for political purposes. But once the IRS is politicized, there's no hope. And we can't allow that to happen. If the Democrats are trying to do that, they're in a fool's effort. They can't do it. And what Jay Sekulow said is absolutely right. It's unconstitutional and it's wrong to begin to use the IRS as a political tool. And I think, well, this will go through court after court after court. The president will never turn over those tax returns. And the staff won't let him do it. John?
Pat, turning to Israel, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is receiving both praise and condemnation after announcing he'll declare Israeli sovereignty over Jewish settlements in the West Bank. Complicating the issue is the timing of his announcement, happening just before Israelis go to the polls tomorrow to choose their next government. Chris Mitchell reports.
Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu made the announcement during a televised interview.
We will go to the next stage in applying Israeli sovereignty in the settlements. But I don't make a difference between the settlement blocks and the isolated settlements because from my perspective, any point of settlement is Israeli and we have responsibility towards them as the Israeli government. I will not uproot anyone and I will not transfer sovereignty to the Palestinians. When we abandon territories, Islamic extremism emerges immediately and slaughters us, and I won't give them the heart of the state of Israel.
Netanyahu's announcement means that large Jewish communities, like here in Ma'ale Adumim, and other smaller communities throughout what is known as the West Bank, would be part of Israel in any future negotiations with the Palestinian Authority. Palestinian leaders warned it would destroy the peace process.
At the end of the day, this is the scenario, and this is where they think they can dictate a solution by destroying the concept of two states.
While Erekat said the International Criminal Court should address the matter, some Israelis rejoiced.
Great to annex it. It belongs to the state of Israel. 42,000 people live here. We'll not give up on this place. This will not be like Gaza, which was given back, and now rockets are being fired on Sderot. I'm in favor of annexing it for the state of Israel.
Others doubted.
There's nothing to be happy about. I don't believe Netanyahu or our mayor.
The last-minute campaign push will likely win Netanyahu's support among the right. But whether he wins on Tuesday's elections will be up to the rest of Israeli voters.
For more on the West Bank announcement and the Israeli elections, let's go back to Pat.
Well, we've got Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell with. Chris, you know, I've been to Ariel. It is a prosperous, thriving city. It's not some settlement out in the plains. They have a university of over 20,000 people. They've got all sorts of high-tech industry and so forth. What is the deal? I mean, what is going on? Are they going to say Ariel is now a part of Israel? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, the idea behind Netanyahu right now, Pat, is it's going to say Ariel is going to be part of Israel. Ma'ale Adumim, where I was this morning, that'll be part of Israel, as well as all the other Jewish settlements throughout what is known as the West Bank. You know, it reminded me of a speech that you gave, Pat, in Herzliya in 2004, where you said land for peace was a cruel chimera. And I think basically that was Netanyahu is saying right now. Some people think it's political because it's just 3 days before the election. But the idea is that Israel will not not give land back to the Palestinians to be used for radical Islam. And that's basically what he said. You see what's happened in southern Lebanon in 2000. You see what's happened in Gaza in 2005. Many times when Israel has given land back to the Palestinians, to Hezbollah or Hamas, it turns into a terrorist entity. And he says we won't let that happen.
Let me ask you about the polls. Tomorrow's the big day. Is Netanyahu pretty much solid now, from what you can see?
Well, right now, the polls, the latest poll that was 34 to blue and white and 29 for Likud. And that actually, I think, has Netanyahu very concerned right now. He was just in the Shuk here, the open-air market in Jerusalem just a few hours ago. But he's trying to get the last-minute votes that he can. I think he's concerned, and I think that's part of the political calculation that people are seeing of why he said that he will give sovereignty, Israeli sovereignty, all over the settlements in the West Bank. The idea is that he could pull some support from some of the smaller right parties so that he could have enough votes to be on a par with the blue and white. He doesn't want to fall too far below the blue and white because that could give Benny Gantz and the blue and white party the first opportunity to form a government once the elections are over.
Chris, what are the numbers again between these various parties? In the Likud has got so many, blue and white's got so many. Who are the other parties that are involved? Is Israel, Netanyahu, and other parties? What are the numbers?
Well, the numbers right now, as you said, 34 blue and white, Likud 29, the latest poll. One of the main numbers is who is left and who is right. Right now, there seems to be, of the 120 seats in the Knesset, a slightly percentage, a majority of maybe 64 seats to 56 for the right as opposed to the left. Now, one of the main things to watch out for, Pat, to tomorrow's election is what happens to some of these smaller right-leaning parties if they don't make the 3.5% threshold. And what they mean by that is if they don't get 3.5% of the vote, their votes won't count. They won't get the minimum of 4 seats in the Knesset. That's critical for Netanyahu because if he loses 1 or 2 of those political parties that were in his government before these elections, it's a make-or-break time for Netanyahu, and we'll see what happens. You know, it says that maybe 1/4 of the population is uncertain, so you think that people are shifting their votes right up to the last day, sometimes right into the voting booth. I talked to one Israeli today who shifted her vote just earlier this morning. And one thing is certain, Pat, really, Benjamin Netanyahu's political future is on the line tomorrow.
One last question. What did he do that turned the people off? Or they just got fatigued and people after a few years want to change? Is that what it is? Or has he made some bad political moves that are hurting him?
Well, in many ways, people think he's done an amazing job. And in fact, I was talking to another Israeli on Sunday. He says he thinks Netanyahu should be the prime minister. He's not going to vote for him. He's going to vote for another right-leaning party. But he says there's really no equal to Netanyahu right now as a leader, as a prime minister, the one who's navigated all these geopolitical machinations here in the Middle East. He's changed the economy. He's transformed that. As Yuli Edelstein told us just a few days ago, that we're much better off. Israel's much better off it was 10 years ago when Netanyahu finally took over. But what you've alluded to, Pat, is that there's a Bibi fatigue. You know, 10 years of Bibi Netanyahu, and many times, in many ways, you could look at this election as sort of a referendum on Bibi. Do you want him or do you not? Certainly the blue and white has been running on that. Anybody but Bibi. So we'll see what happens. But for many people think that he's the one to take Israel into the next season.
Well, thanks, Chris. We look forward eagerly to the returns because I think America is extremely interested in what happens in Israel.